I thank my friend from Tennessee, and Mr. Speaker, this is a very, very meaningful day. Like so many other things in our lives, there are certain times, certain events that you always recall where you were when they occurred. And I remember very well that Saturday when I was at lunch with a group of friends and received word that Gabby had been shot. And I remember later in the day, not too long after that, when the reports were actually that she had passed away. And I remember the feelings I had then. Fortunately, she did survive. But the emotions of that day live with me, and unfortunately reinforced too many times. They have been reinforced at Newtown and in Aurora, and even before the Gabby Giffords shooting in Tucson, they were reinforced in my community of Louisville, Kentucky, where a disgruntled employee shot with an assault weapon a number of co-workers in the Standard Gravure printing plant that prints the Courier-Journal. And I remember also a mass shooting at Heath High School in Paducah, Kentucky, one of the first school shootings. And unfortunately, the list continues to grow. These inexplicable shootings, many of which committed with weapons that are designed only to inflict massive casualties. And after Newtown, I spoke out the next day and saying actually that I was sorry that I had not spoken out on a regular basis. And I vowed at that point, as Gabby has vowed every day of her life over the last 3 years, to make it a mission to try and create saner gun laws in this country. And even in my state of Kentucky, with a very, very long and significant gun culture, vast majorities of our citizens believe that we ought to have universal background checks. And yet, we have not been able to make any ground in that effort. I think most people realize that in that Gabby Giffords shooting, that Jared Loughner, the perpetrator, was actually wrestled to the ground when he had stopped to reload because he did not have a 30 capacity magazine. He had a lesser capacity magazine. And yet, we can't deal with, again, the weapons and magazines made to inflict damage on many, many people. And I can't help but think that a lot of the frustration with Congress, with this government throughout the country, is not a function of our inability or unwillingness to work the will of the American people. And as we remember now this tragedy of 3 years ago, and also remember the incredible work of Gabby Giffords over these last 3 years in trying to create a saner approach to guns in this country, it's important that we recognize that we do have an obligation to respond to what the American people want us to do. And if we would take simple steps, sane steps, logical steps, like requiring everyone who purchases a weapon in this country to undergo a background check, then maybe our approval rating, maybe the confidence and the credibility of government will improve slightly. So it's an honor to stand here on the floor to pay tribute to a friend, a colleague, and a great American who continues to fight for her country and our citizens, and to urge all of us to think about what she has stood for over the last 3 years and rededicate our efforts to improving the lives of and the security of the American people. With that, Mr. Cohen, I yield back.
Thank you.